Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Jam Gamecast. My name's Matt, and I'm here with my co-host Jim. What's up, Jim?
Hey Matt, how you doing? Hello
I'm
to all the listeners we have out there. Welcome.
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
All right. Well, on our episode tonight, we have planned. We're going to talk about E3. It's not going to necessarily be a prediction show, but more so kind of. We're going to talk about maybe things that we want to see maybe announced, or stuff that we would love for them to announce, or games or consoles or whatever. So it's not necessarily a prediction show, but more of kind of things that we would like to see announced at the E3 show. It starts this Sunday. We're recording this on Friday night, a little later than some other videos that have been put out there. But we're going to go ahead and do our E3 episode. So, Jim, is there anything? What's the first thing that you're maybe hoping for that that's going to get revealed at E3 this year?
When it comes to shows such as E3, I kind of actually like to stay in the dark until everything, until each segment. I know, like each company or what developing company or what have you will have their own, slot of time to speak. I usually like to kind of stay in the dark until that time. However, just in passing, you do end up hearing things and hearing about, possibilities. So I do have a few things, that I'm hoping for. A couple of the things on my list have, been things that have been in the works for years. So I mean, they're not really anything that I'm just hoping that they get announced actually, because we've been kind of waiting for them for a while. Now, what they say for me, as most listeners will know, is I'm a huge fan of the Kingdom Hearts series. So I'm hoping that we find out some information on Kingdom Hearts 3. Hopefully it's a release date, and hopefully that release date will be soon.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That was definitely on my list as well. It's been years now. We got to hear something more about Kingdom Hearts 3. Like you said, whether it's a release date or maybe some new game footage, maybe a playable demo, anything, just give us something for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I kind of got a little bit of a taste of what I think Kingdom Hearts will be like in regards to graphics and gameplay when I played Kingdom Hearts 2.8, the final chapter. When I played I guess the world, like how in Kingdom Hearts you travel to different worlds. It was kind of one world total, a continuation of Aqua's story from Birth by Sleep. And I thought, like that was, if that's any indication of what Kingdom Hearts 3 will look like and play like, I think that we'll be in for a treat. But again, it's going to be all up to Square on what they choose or choose not to show us. This coming week.
Now, are those new, like, that new little portion of that game, Aqua's stuff, do you know, did they use the same game engine that they used, or that they're using for Kingdom Hearts 3? I know they created a whole new game engine for Kingdom Hearts 3, but...
I'm actually not 100% sure about the game engine, but... I got the Kingdom Hearts 2.8 for PS4, and the Dream Drop Distance. When I played that, that's the the 3DS game that they just kind of brought over.
Yeah.
And to me, that kind of reminded me of like really good like PlayStation 2 / PlayStation 3 type graphics, but the Aqua's story. That was, like, kind of looks like the typical Square, the updated, the most recent updated Square graphics. Actually, if anybody has ever seen, any gameplay or played themselves, any Final Fantasy, 15 that just came out recently, it looks a whole lot like that. Again, with a little bit of the kind of like the Kingdom Hearts Disney art to it as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think that the Kingdom Hearts 3 engine is similar to the engine that they used for Final Fantasy 15 because from what they have shown from the Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff, it doesn't look. I mean, it looks better than the PlayStation 2 stuff of the original games, but it's nothing like it's more cartoony than what Kingdom Hearts 15
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Or
that's
I'm
the thing.
sorry, Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts, with the Disney and everything, it is more cartoony than the typical Final Fantasy games, which I'm fine with that stuff. I mean, I'm hoping that the all the Kingdom Hearts games that I've played have been great games. Aside from the fact that the graphics isn't what you would get in a typical Final Fantasy game, 100%.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still enjoy playing them. But Kingdom Hearts 3, they've been kind of given tidbits and little teasers for the past, like, it feels like 3 years in regards to the actual game. So
Yeah.
things could have been completely overhauled from the first little images or footage that we've seen years ago.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when did the second one come out? When was that, like
The second
05
thing,
or something like that? Or
I was actually a freshman in high school and it was like second semester, so that would have been 2006.
okay, '06. Okay. Yeah, so it's been over 10 years since
Yeah,
the last,
yeah, the last like
the
main console
yeah, the
game.
last mainline story game.
Yep.
All right, well, I kind of figured you would bring up Kingdom Hearts 3. I had it on my list too, but I figured I was like, I'll let Jim bring that one up because I know
Yeah.
you're more excited about that game than I am. All right, well, I'll go with my first thing here, and the reason why I have this on here is because just this past week, Nintendo had a Nintendo Direct concerning Pokemon, and they announced a Pokken tournament on the Switch, and it was funny when it came on and the guy's talking and he's like, "So now we're going to announce our first game our first Pokemon game on Nintendo Switch," and he's like, "Pokken tournament," and I was just sort of like, "Oh, that's it," just like a port of a game that's already out. So
Hmm.
I was thinking it would be funny if, and I think a lot of people were disappointed that they didn't announce like a brand new mainline story game or Pokemon game for the Switch. So I was thinking it would be funny if they did that Nintendo Direct, and then come E3 they were like, "Oh, here's this brand new Pokemon game for the Nintendo Switch," which I highly doubt that this would happen because I think that they probably, if they had a game, they would probably have announced it during that Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. I recently I saw the same announcement that you did, and I don't really think that Nintendo wants the Switch to compete with the 3DS,
Oh
which
no, yeah, they don't.
yeah, which I mean, and the Pokemon games have been a staple for the handheld, Nintendo systems for decades now. Um, but I mean, I really think that like the Switch can operate as a handheld system, so I would think that they would come up with something better than a Pokken tournament. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, I think it's just a matter of time before they come out with like a main Pokemon game for the Switch. Like you said, they don't want to compete with the 3DS. I think the 3DS has maybe like another year or so before that's done, and it just Nintendo transitions over to just being like, okay, we just have the Switch now.
yeah,
Um,
that's I kind of thought a similar thing there. You know, couple years down the road, the Switch will be much further into production and more readily available to people, especially with the holiday the holidays fast approaching. There's 6 months away. Um, yeah, I think more and more people will be getting the Switch and just kind of saying this is a better system and I can travel with it. Why am I going to keep my 3DS?
Yeah, it still is pretty big though. I mean, I have it and I like it, and I'll probably mainly use it as a handheld. But it is big compared to like if you're talking a 3DS. It is big. It's a lot more difficult to travel with it. It's a lot more fragile, I think, than a 3DS. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is a good point.
Yeah. What'd you think of the Pokemon Sun and Moon Ultra announcement?
From what little that they showed of them, they look, like kind of just looks like that they added more into what was already in Sun and Moon. Like they made the landscape fuller, the flowers and the trees, and made things more colorful. Which I'm actually, I'm not surprised that they're coming out with Sun and Moon Ultra. I'm just actually surprised that they're coming out with them so soon. Pretty much a year after their original games came out. What they usually do in a lot of cases is they will re-release an older generation. Like I think when they might come out with say. Like a lot of people, from what I was seeing, were expecting Generation 4 games, which were Diamond and Pearl, to get their remakes. That seems like what was next in line, according to what I've seen. But, Nintendo's just coming out with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which, is a little bit, understandable because, if you're a person that keeps up with the anime, that is where Ash currently is in the Alola region, it's called. That's where he's traveling, and he'll probably be there for the next, 2-3 seasons of the anime.
Yeah, I know they try to keep the cartoon consistent with the games. So wherever the games are taking place, that's also where the cartoon is taking place.
Yeah.
Now, I know in the announcement they said, like, there's going to be a brand new storyline. So, like, how, like, you know more about Pokemon than I do. How does that work? Like, is it a completely new game or, and it just takes place in the same region? Or is it, like, the same game with some new little, maybe, side quests or something like that?
Well, I actually have not played any of, the sequels to games. I know that there's kind of been sequels for Red and Blue, for Gold and Silver, for Ruby and Sapphire, and I haven't played any of those. But I hear that the stories are a little bit similar. However, with the Alola region where Sun and Moon take place, I think that there might be some drastic changes within the story. You remember how in Red and Blue you travel around and you go to all 8 gym badges and you have to get the 8 gym badges in order to take on the Elite Four?
Yeah.
Well, in Sun and Moon, there actually are no gyms and no gym leaders.
Right.
What there's a number, I think it's maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6, what they call island challenges, and you kind of go around and do these challenges, and sometimes there is like a gym leader of sorts, but they're more there to kind of like help you and give you pointers, and you don't really battle them in most cases. They might have have you go do a challenge where you battle a certain type of wild Pokemon, and it's like really it's a lot stronger than the wild Pokemon in that region, in that specific area of the game, than you would normally see. And then if you get through that challenge, you get like a gemstone, almost that takes the place of the badge.
Okay.
But there is like a subplot of where the professor that gives you your first Pokemon is kind of trying to set up like an official Pokemon League in the Alola region, and it kind of comes to the end where he's like has set up the Elite Four and he's the champion of it. So I mean, I think at least my thoughts on Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon is that it might take place, a few years after, the original Sun and Moons, and I think a Pokemon Lake will be, fully fledged and, going on in this new journey that you go on.
So that seems like it's more like a sequel than, than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure Pokemon fans out there are excited about that then.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the game will sell. Although there will be those people that are bummed that there's not a sequel to Diamond and Pearl yet. I'm pretty sure they'll still go out and get Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, especially if it is kind of along the lines of what I speculate.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's your next announcement or game that you're hoping that gets announced?
Okay. This next game is also from Square, and it's another game that we've been kind of hearing about off and on for the last few years, and that is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I know you have your aversions to the two remakes, and I'm more accepting of remakes, especially older classic games. I like to see them get a little bit of an update, just as long as it kind of stays true to the original.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I know prior to the podcast, Jim had asked me if I was going to mention this, and in all honesty, I said, no, not really, because I know it's out there, I know it's happening, and when it comes out, I'm sure I'll play it, but I've said before, like, I'm not that excited for it. Like, yeah, it looks cool, and the updated graphics look cool and everything, but for me, Final Fantasy VII was Final Fantasy VII, and I stated before, like, I don't need a remake of games that already came out before. So I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, it's happening, the graphics look cool, but it's not something where I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait until the remake comes out.
Yeah, that's, I'm really just interested to see, if there is any information on it, what that information is. I know at times people have said that the Final Fantasy VII Remake will be released in like an episodic, manner, kind of how a lot of the Telltale games are, which I'm not really a fan of that for a game, for a Square game. I think if it's going to be a Square game, like I want the whole thing, so I can just play through it in however long it takes me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do not want that episode thing to happen, because to me, yeah. I'm not gonna pay $60, and maybe since it's not a complete game, maybe only charge $40 or something. But even I'm not gonna pay $40 to $60 multiple times for Final Fantasy VII. Like, I'll pay $60. If I pay $60, I would maybe pay $60 once for a Final Fantasy remake, but I hope that they don't do that episode thing.
Yeah, and then, kind of along the lines with what I said for Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm just really hoping, that we get a look at, what the game looks like, and I'd like to see, somebody, kind of see if they can do like a side-by-side rendering of, how the game looks, compared to the original Final Fantasy, like how Cloud looks, next to the PlayStation 1 version.
Yeah, and I think you will get at least something from Square about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, whether it's, a clear time frame for a release or some new game footage or, something. I know something came out where some people interpreted it as Square saying, like, it wasn't going to come out till 2020, and then other people said, like, well, no, that's not what they were saying. They said that they wanted to release through to 2020, which kind of leads people to think, like, oh, well, that's the whole episodic thing, so it would, maybe Square will come out and give us, like, oh, it's definitely going to come out in 2000, 2018 or 2019, 2020, whenever it's going to come out. Maybe they'll just come out and tell us a year, which they can always tell us a year and then push it back anyway.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, but I think you will get something from Final Fantasy VII Remake at this E3.
I hope so.
Okay, well, keeping on the Square theme here, the next game I want to hear more about is, I guess the trailer came out maybe last week or the week before, and it was a trailer for a game called Lost Sphere. Did you see that at all, Jim, or have you heard about this at all?
No, this is completely new to me.
Okay, well, it's a Square game. It's an RPG, and it's from the same little offshoot or off company from Square that created I Am Setsuna. We've talked about that game on the podcast before. But it's by the same little offshoot company that created that game, made this game, and it got announced on, like I said, a couple weeks ago. And the information that I got, and I looked at Square's website, and it's only going to be released on Square's website. It's not going to be sold anywhere else. At least that's what they're saying now.
Wow.
Yeah. So it looks cool. I Am Setsuna always looked cool to me. I haven't played that yet, and this one looks just as cool. So I actually pre-ordered it for the Switch. It's coming out on the Switch. I think it's coming on the Switch and PS4. It's coming on. So I pre-ordered it on the Switch. And the reason why I pre-ordered it is because some people are saying it might be difficult to get because it's only being sold exclusively on Square's website. So I'm hoping maybe at E3 they'll have a little bit more info on it, maybe an exact release date or some more gameplay footage. Like I said, they released a trailer a couple weeks ago, so I doubt they'll have a new trailer, but any more information about that game I would be interested in seeing.
Yeah, I think that's, the one thing, that everybody looks forward to, what the next trailer is going to be, how good are the graphics going to be. And, when it comes to Square, I think Square, in my opinion, does, like, cinematics, the best. And that's, usually, the main part of a lot of their showcases or little teases, which I love Square's cinematics. They're great.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I pretty much usually love anything Square puts out, especially on the RPG front. Any RPGs they're usually associated with, I'm interested in. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, I'm hoping that they'll have some more information about that game, and I'm looking forward to getting that game when it finally comes out. All right, what's something else that you're hoping for, looking forward to, Jim?
Well, I mean, this game's already announced. I'm just hoping that we get a little bit more information on it. That's going to be the next game in the Call of Duty series, Call of Duty World War II. They're going back to their roots, which I think is going to be great. For me, I'm just kind of maybe hoping to get some actual gameplay footage. One thing that a lot of people are hoping for is them having like a little bit of a demo where you can go ahead and get some hands-on. So I'm really looking to see how that is, and to see if there's any information about the multiplayer and also the story. I'm a big history buff, and I'm really hoping that we get some more information on the story for this game. Really it seems from the teaser trailer, it seems like that it's just going to be you're playing as Americans fighting across Europe from Normandy. But I'm hoping that there might be a little bit of a surprise. Maybe you get to play as the Red Army pushing back against the Germans, pushing towards Berlin. That might be interesting to see about. I don't think that there will be anything about the Pacific theater, but I like to be surprised when it comes to this type of stuff.
So they don't have a release date for that game yet?
New Call of Duty games usually come out every November.
Okay, right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that might be when this next one comes out. How are they accuracy-wise, like, when it comes to history? Like, is it usually pretty accurate, or is it just sort of loosely,
yeah, they seem pretty accurate. However, I'm not 100% sure. The last World War II game that they had was Call of Duty World at War, and that came out in, I want to say, maybe 2008. And I played that game just a little bit, so I don't really know a whole lot about it.
Okay, all right. So yeah, you're looking forward to the next Call of Duty game. All right. Well, I'll move on with my next game that I'm hoping maybe there'll be some more information about, and I'm sticking to the Square stuff here. I'm hoping that they're gonna have some more information about the RPG that they had during the Switch announcement, where the game called, or at least they were calling it Project Octopath. It was really cool looking. It was like a sort of like 2D sprites, and that's pretty much what they showed of it, like some 2D sprites walking along the screen, sort of like in a 2D sprite world and everything like that. And it really looked really cool, kind of like an old school look to it. And Square did the games back in those days, in like the Super Nintendo games. They Final Fantasy VI and everything were great games, so they can definitely pull that type of game off. At least back in the day they could. So I'm hoping there'll be more information about that, other than they said that it's going to get released on the Switch. You haven't really heard anything else about it, so I'm hoping maybe they'll have some gameplay footage, or a trailer, or a release date or something like that. I think that game looks really cool.
Nice. Yeah, I'd be interested to learn more about that game.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to get a Switch to play it, though.
Yeah, I might have to get a Switch, but I think if any game's gonna make me get a Switch, I think it'll be Pokken Tournament, man.
Are you serious?
No.
I know you're into Pokemon, but I didn't think you would be into.
No, I mean, I saw the original the original Pokken game when I heard when that came out, and I was just like, oh man, like that it's it reminds me of the Pokemon Stadium, but I mean but
yeah.
It's just like a fighting game. Like, I think one trailer I saw like Pikachu like do like a backflip and like kick someone in the kick another Pokemon in the face, which I was just like, to me that's not a Pokemon battle.
Yeah, it kind of had the same feel for me when I saw it. Like, it kind of reminded me of when Pokemon Stadium came out, and also because I remember when Pokemon Stadium came out, me and you were so hyped for that, and we went to the store and got it, and then I was like totally disappointed by it. I was kind of like, oh, this game kind of stinks, I didn't really like it. So it kind of reminded me of that. Like, people were probably like, oh, a Pokemon game on the Wii U, and then it's just like this weird fighting game.
Yeah. I still think that Pokemon Stadium was one of the biggest letdowns in regards to a game ever for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that. All right, so what's your next game or announcement that you're hoping for?
Well, I'm hoping this. I'm really wondering. I'm hoping to see what the company Bethesda has to say. That's the game that or the company that has done Fallout 3 and Fallout 4,
Right.
And they also do the Skyrim games. Which I've actually never played any of the Skyrim games. Although a lot of people have told me, if I'm a Fallout fan, I'd be a fan of those games. It's just kind of, instead of having like an assault rifle, you have a sword or a bow and arrow. So those are games I might actually get into. But I mean, in regards to Bethesda, I'm really, kind of intrigued to see, if they say anything, if there's going to be anything more for Fallout 4 coming out, maybe anything, on mods or anything, in regards to downloadable content, or if they're, going to be working on anything in regards to, a next game in the series.
Well, I know there's some speculation out there about Bethesda because they recently released it's almost like for lack of a better description, it was like a map of an amusement park, and each little area was based on one of their games. Like they had Fallout and Skyrim and stuff like that, and then there were 2 areas that were blacked out and you couldn't see what they were. So people are speculating, they're gonna be releasing new IPs and completely brand new games.
Oh yeah, that'd be really interesting, to see what they come out with.
Yeah, and I haven't really played a lot of their games. Never really got into Fallout and, the Skyrim stuff. I was never really into any of that, but, I know a lot of people are into their games, so I think a lot of people would be hyped if there's, new games announced from Bethesda.
Oh yeah, that's, when I was thinking about, what I would be excited for, Bethesda was, actually the first company that came to mind. It's like I wonder what they're going to come out with.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe they'll have some sort of big announcement during E3.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, well, moving right along here, I'll talk about the next thing. And I don't know if you have seen anything about this, Jim, but really the only thing that's come out about it is there's a little trailer, and it's for that game called Cyberpunk 2077. Have you seen this trailer?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh my god, it looks amazing. It's this android girl, and she's in the street, and it's pouring rain, and she's got these big blades that are coming out of her arm, and there's bullets flying past her, and one kind of grazes her cheek, and you can see that the metal come her skin gets pushed away, and you see the metal coming through, and there's a guy standing behind her with a gun on her, and there's flying car, a flying police car over top of her, and it really reminds me of Blade Runner, the atmosphere of it. I'm oh man, that looks like something out of Blade Runner, and it just looks so cool. And I know on a lot of these E3 things, a lot of people are saying I want to see something more about Cyberpunk 2077, and I totally agree with that. Just that little trailer looks awesome, and then at the end it just says coming whenever it's ready,
Oh man.
So I'm hoping that there'll be more announced about it, maybe another trailer or something.
Oh yeah, I'm really intrigued now after that description that you just gave me. That's definitely something that I'll be on the lookout for.
Yeah, after we're done the show, you should look up the trailer for it and take a look at it.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me too. I need to go ahead and kind of watch Blade Runner again because I've not seen the whole movie all the way through in a while. I think it's been a number of years, and I mentioned Fallout. From what I've heard, there was for people that were fans of the movie in Fallout 4, there were actually a lot of Blade Runner references.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Blade Runner. It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, it's one of those movies. I always say I need to go back and watch the whole thing. Just in one sitting.
Yeah, well, the sequel's coming out soon too.
Yeah, and I know that'll be coming out. So I think it'll be something that I have to move to the top of my list.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have anything else that you're hoping gets announced?
I have one final item. I think this is something that a lot of people are interested in, and that is Project Scorpio.
Oh yeah, of course.
I've heard some rumors and speculations on how much it's going to cost. It could cost like between somewhere in the $800 to $1,000 range. Which would make it the most expensive system in recent history. And I think of all time. When you factor in I guess inflation.
That's crazy to me. Like, I can't imagine anyone paying $1,000 for a console. And when you talk about numbers like that, it kind of brings back the thought of the Neo Geo when that came out in the mid '90s. That was a $600-700 console, and that was the mid '90s. So now you're talking $1,000, and I'm like, oh my god! And it's not even a new console. It's just this whole middle of the road console thing that Sony and Microsoft are doing.
Yeah.
It's an Xbox One, but it's a half a step up. And just the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. And
yeah. And the Xbox One and the Xbox One S.
Yeah, and I have a problem with that. To me, it should just be a brand new console, And I'll be oh cool, a new console. I'll get it eventually. But if they're saying oh, it's only it's an Xbox One, but it just has better graphic capabilities. I'm just kind of well, that's not really a selling point for me, But if they're it's a brand new console, I'll be oh, well, cool, I'll have to get it, But I hate this whole half a step thing because I'm sort of when does it hit a point where they're going to be oh, okay, this game's coming out, but it's only going to be playable on the Xbox Scorpio, And at that point, I'm well, it might as well just be a new console because you're releasing games and saying I can't play it on my Xbox One. Same thing with with Sony. If they say oh well, this can only be played on the PlayStation 4 Pro, it's well, screw it. It shouldn't be a PlayStation 4. It should just be a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I really hope that that isn't the case. I think the Xbox One has been and Microsoft has been really doing well with the whole backwards compatibility, kind of working with developers and getting games backwards compatible, on the Xbox One. And if that's the way, and if, Project Scorpio is not going to be anything like that, or, just kind of the next gen console, then what's the point,
So do you think it is a next gen console?
That's what I think, at least.